Speaking of a construction loan, it's possible that some of these businesses are going to have to reach out to our friends over at Legacy Group Capital. LegacyG.com is our sponsor's website. And I say this because I'm looking at the damage, and it's considerable. When you have a car that is, or in this case, a truck, driven through your storefront, you're doing some significant damage. Depending on the building, you could be doing some significant structural damage. And in Parkland, we got a look of surveillance footage showing a truck being driven through a Walgreens so that the people inside the truck could steal the ATM. It was a flatbed pickup truck. The suspects get out. You've got at least 3, I believe. Suspects get out, put a cable around the ATM, try to drag it away. Now, we've seen this work in the past. Did not work here. And I don't know if you're the folks who have to clean up this mess and pay for this mess. Do you say to yourself, they did this and they couldn't even get the ATM machine? Or do you say, I'm glad they couldn't get the ATM machine? I find myself weirdly on the fence. I'm leaning into, I'm glad they didn't get away with anything. But part of me says, you did all this and you got
what
nothing.
A waste.
It's just like, why put us through this? Why put us through this? The cable snapped, breaking the ATM in half, which I did not know was actually possible. They say the cash compartment was still bolted to the floor. That's the part that you want to get, not the top part of the ATM. They were unable to get any of the cash, although they tried, before then fleeing the scene. So that's one that's in Parkland. Let's go nearby to their, I'm told, a great donut shop. I've actually heard of this place in Tacoma. Have you heard of them before?
No, never.
So there is a place called Helen's Donuts and Ice Cream. I've only heard good things about the donuts, in fairness. I've never heard anything about the ice cream. In fact, I only thought it was called Helen's Donuts.
Got to stick to your strengths.
Well, I did not realize that there was an ice cream component to this, but I've actually heard of them. And in this case, they had their property damaged over the weekend, about 5:15 Saturday. And a longtime customer, his name is Mike, he showed up when Fox 13 happened to be there. He was looking for some donuts and ice cream, or maybe just the donuts.
Breakfast of champions.
You know, just saying. He gets there and he realizes what the owners realized, which is someone was quite upset with either the donuts or with the ice cream, because they vandalized the shop in a very, very significant way, throwing rocks. There was a lot of damage. You can see what looks like teenagers, 3 of them on surveillance. And this customer's like, who would do this to this shop? Why would you do something like this?
Just senseless vandalism. Yeah. I mean, everybody loves these guys. I can't think of a reason why somebody would do that.
Well, again, you know, I will say, because we were talking during the break leading into the show, there was a segment on Fox about Krispy Kreme, because they now have Grinch donuts, I guess.
Ugh.
And Krispy Kreme is awful because they're so sugary. It's too much. It's too rich.
Same thing with like that Crumble cookie chain. Have you heard of them?
No.
It's
Crumble cookie chain.
It's called Crumble Cookie, and it's like they make these like fat cookies.
I've never had one of those.
And the same thing though, they're super sweet.
It's too much, and I get their dessert, and they're supposed to be sweet, but there's such a thing as too sweet. And if it was like a donut hole, okay, 1 bite, that's fine, but not a full donut. But I'm willing to bet the reason why they're so sugary is because that's what teenagers now want. I think we've essentially trained the taste buds of young kids to want that kind of sweetness. And so maybe they went to Helen's Donuts. They're like, wait, this is a quality donut. It doesn't taste so sugary like Krispy Kreme. And then they got upset and allegedly threw a rock through the glass front. It ends up not just leaving this huge hole in the glass, but also the neon window signage was damaged. Steve is the owner, and he took a very mature position. He says, I forgive these kids. I really do. But they're clearly going down the wrong path. And I hope there's some course correction.
The kid walked to the side and found a piece of rock, and all of a sudden he just did it. I mean, sometimes you have to think. All of us been, kids before, and we know we've done some stupid stuff before.
I will say I've never done that before. And I'm trying to go back to when I was, a kid, let's just say 13 through 17-ish. So just a few years ago. And nothing comes to mind as far as anything other than a prank in high school, which we released a bunch of crickets in the building. That's what we did. We didn't damage anything. We did, I guess, leave cricket food all over the place for the crickets. But other than that, nothing like this. And even in my case, it was a prank. And pranks obviously can go too far, and they could be illegal. Like us technically breaking and entering the building in the middle of the night one night. So, yeah, but this is not, teens will be teens, boys will be boys. This is clearly destructive behavior.
Yeah, just be careful and start doing good. Don't roam out at night. Parents should be the same. Look out after your kids and, make sure they're home. I forgive the kids. I mean, just have somebody pay for it. That'd be great because it come out of my pocket.
And it's at least about $2,000 as of now what the damage is going to cost him. $2,000. And I'm going to go out on a limb, even though it's rare for me to hear of a Tacoma donut shop, but here I am knowing about it. It's still probably not making a ton of money. I don't think you're swimming in cash.
Your margins are probably pretty thin.
Donuts and ice cream. I mean, donuts get stale, so I imagine like any bakery, they're, getting by. They're doing all right, but they're not going home swimming in a pool filled with $100 bills. That's not what they're doing. And so $2,000 is a lot of money that they are now on the hook for. And of course, he's right to talk about the parental involvement in all of this, although something tells me probably two loving parents are not involved in these kids' lives. But this is a parental issue as of now. And depending on their age, it could very easily spiral into something more. It all starts low level, and then bam, all of a sudden you're in a gang. And I know that some people might roll their eyes at that kind of jump. It's like, Jason, they threw a rock through a window. Yeah, they committed vandalism without any concern for the people who they hurt, okay? And if they're going down that path due to, for example, lack of parental involvement in their lives, it's very clear what that path continues to look like if they continue to go down it. And yeah, it does jump that far and that dramatically, unfortunately. And then finally, in Woodinville, there is a small business, a pot shop, that dealt with a crime that, in fairness, we haven't had one of these for about a month-ish. A stolen, in this case, a Kia, driven through the storefront. It was a smash and grab. It was a stolen Kia. It's usually a Kia or a Hyundai. And it's funny because King 5 in this story says, this time the crime occurred in a King County community known for its relatively low crime rate, Woodinville. Yeah, they have a low crime rate, but you do, of course, understand that the bad policies of Seattle and King County still, I mean, they're not even going that far, right? Woodinville's not that far. These crimes are spreading and have been spreading because of the culture around them. And we have a culture of lawlessness still. It's gotten better. No doubt. It has gotten better. In large part because we started to reverse the previous Democrat-led legislation that went easy on criminals. So once we turn that around, you start to see the numbers come down. But the reality is we're still going to deal with this in all sorts of communities. So please spare me the whole, well, no, this doesn't happen in Woodinville. If you're still saying that about your community, consider yourself lucky. Consider yourself lucky, but you're living on borrowed time because it's going to happen to you unless we make some very considerable reforms. Still, we need reforms. We need to replace politicians. We need to replace bad judges. Now, the car was stolen in Kirkland over the weekend. Apparently, several suspects were in the car. They used the car to reverse into the glass storefront of Leaf Life Smoke Shop. King County Sheriff's deputies, per King 5, said it happened about 4:30 in the morning on Saturday. They sell vapes, bongs, smoking accessories, and that was likely what caught the attention of these suspects.
They just started loading up on all the vapes they could get. From the body language that I saw, I believe that they thought this was a cannabis shop.
Oh, I thought it was a cannabis shop too. Well, that's on them. That's not on me. What's the name of it? You can't have leaf in it.
I know.
That's on them. So I guess what's the leaf then?
Yeah, I kind of wondered the same thing.
Okay. Well, stop it. They don't sell weed. They sell bongs, apparently.
False advertising, I think.
Ugh. But, I mean, honestly, if you're looking to steal products that are easy to sell on the black market, vapes actually are probably high on that list, especially if you're selling it to teenagers. Now, as far as we know, you've got another incident in which owners are struggling to figure out how they're going to pay for this. You're doing this at a time where, for all we know, they've been targeted in the past and have had to make up for that. Meanwhile, we don't know anything about the suspects. King County deputies did not confirm whether the suspects are minors or adults. But just consider this yet again an instance of consequences of bad policy and bad, quote unquote, leaders who give us said policies. That we only found 3 today is probably a reflection on us being busy and attending the Dave Ross retirement lunch. Although you only stayed for the food and then you left. I stayed for the whole thing. And I'm willing to bet if either of us spent even just an extra 10 minutes, we would have found even more similar stories. And we only kept it to King and Pierce County.
Yeah.
If we went over into any part of Eastern Washington, frankly, I'm willing to bet we would have found even more.